Hi everyone, it's Mrs. McLeod. Here I am to teach a lesson about how to read notes on the staff. We learned last week or last class about the ancient tablets that had engravings on them. And the engravings were actually markings showing a song. You might remember that ancient hymn that we heard that was written by the Hurrian people. Their tablet was found 3,400 years ago in modern day Iraq. As we learned earlier, music has been recorded in this form for thousands of years. Every culture has had its own way of recording music on clay or stone tablets and then later on scrolls of parchment. We also learned that modern musical notation is most closely linked to the style which dates back 1,000 years, beginning with square-shaped neumes on a four-line staff. And in class, we looked at these little square notes. We also looked at how sometimes they're closely linked together and sometimes they're far apart. We also noticed that there was a four-line staff and there were words written under the neumes in Latin. Well, nowadays in modern musical notation, we have a staff that has 5 lines. Notes like this one, up high on the top of the staff, or written here or here, will all be a higher pitched sound. Notes that are lower on the staff are a lower sound. And as we go up the staff, pitch goes higher. And as we go down the staff, pitch goes lower. So if I was to sing this note, da, this note would be da, 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 da. And if we went backwards, our pitch would go down. Da, 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 da. It actually could go lower than the staff as well. We number each of these lines, always starting from counting on the bottom line. So the first line is down here, second line, third line, fourth line, and fifth line. We also count the space in between the lines. So first space is here, second space is here, third space is here, and fourth space is here. Always count up from the bottom. So let's look at these notes here. Let's try to identify if they're a line note or a space note. So this one here has a line going through the middle of it. So it is a line note. Now let's count up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth line. This is a space note. It's in the middle of the two lines. So we call that a space. And this is the first space because we always count on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is also a space note in between the third and fourth line. If we count up from the first space, 1, 2, 3, we know that is the third space. So look over these notes and see if you can identify what line or space they're on. Let's have a look at this one here. Is it a line or a space? And what number of line or space is it on? If you said it's the first line, you are correct. Let's look at this one. Is it a line or space? And what number is it? If you thought it was the fifth line or line 5, you are correct. Let's look at the next one. Right here, it's a line or space. It's on the third line. So if you said line 3, you're right. Which one is this? A space or a line? First, second, third, or fourth? If you said space 2, you're correct. Let's look at this one here. Space or line? What number are we on? Always count from the bottom. So this is the fourth space. If you thought space 4, you're correct. Let's look at the next note here. Line or space? What number? If you thought it was the second line, you are correct. What line or space? If you thought it was the third space, you are correct. Here, line or space. If you thought it was the first space, you are correct. And this one here in the top, line or space. And what number? If you thought it was line 5, you are correct. Now, each of the notes on the staff has a letter name too. We can talk about it in terms of numbers, line, or space, but they also have a letter attached to them. They're the same as the letters in the alphabet, but we use a much shorter alphabet. If we looked at here, we'll start just at this note right here. Of course, notes can go lower, but let's start this one. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. This is called middle C because it's right in the middle of this treble staff and this bass staff. If we kept on going, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, etc., you'll notice that they have some letters in the alphabet. So how long is this alphabet? What letters do we really use if we start from A? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And when we get to G, we just use the alphabet. We just recycle those letters. A, B, C, D, E, F. And we can actually go up above the staff too. So right above this line would be a high G. Conversely, if we go backwards in the alphabet, if we start on A and we go backwards, then the letter that comes after or before A would be G, F, E, D, C. And if we went a step backwards, B, A, G, and we could go even lower, F down here. So if you're wondering why G and A seem to be next to each other, remember, if we start the alphabet on A and we go up to G, we recycle the letters again. A, B, C. A way to shorten this is to use an acronym to help remember the names of the line notes and the space notes. The line notes and the space notes. Now remember, the middle note here is called middle C. This note in the middle of the two staves, that's plural for staff, is called middle C. It is called that because it is in the middle of the two staves and because it is in the middle of a piano keyboard. So if you had a piano, this is the note C right here, right in the middle. So if we go higher than C, we go up the alphabet. And if we go below C, then we have to go backwards in the alphabet. So if we looked at all of those lines and spaces, they would do this. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. B would be right here in this space, then C, then D would be right here in this space, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And here's a way to remember how to say those notes. We'll look at that next. So in the treble clef, this is a treble clef. This means that all of this music here and all of these notes down here are written for higher pitched sounds or higher pitched instruments or voices. So that's what the treble clef tells us. When we see notes that are using the treble clef, we can use an acronym or just a little saying to help us remember it. So we have the notes E, G, B, D, F for the line notes. We can use those first letters, E, G, B, D, F, to make an acronym. I like to use every good boy deserves fudge to remember those, to remember the names of the line notes. Now, if we looked at the spaces in between E and F, we'd have the note F. E and G, we'd have the note F. There's F there. If we look at the space between G and B, we'd have the note A. There's A there. If we look at the space between B and D, we'd have the note C, and so on and so on. So we can actually spell a word. I'm going to see if I can move my picture here. I don't know if I can. But anyway, the word spells F-A-C-E, or face. So that's kind of an easy word to remember. It also rhymes with the word space. In the bass clef means that all of this music here and all this music here is written for sounds that are low in pitch instead. And we use this acronym for these notes. We start on G, which is the bottom line. I like to say G, B, D, F, A, or we can use this acronym over here, George Brown died Friday afternoon, to remember the names of the lines. And again, it's just something you have to remember. You have to practice and be able to say that in your memory. Now, the space in between G and B is A, and the space in between B and D is C, etc., etc. What you're left with is A, C, E, and this last one is G. And I like to say, all cows eat grass, to remember those space notes in the bass clef. So here are all the notes of the grand staff, minus a few at the bottom here. Starting on C, if we went backwards, we'd have B, A, and G. And if we carry it on up to the top, past C, we'd have D, E, and F. When we see all of these notes together like this, we call that the grand staff because we have the treble clef and we also have the bass clef. So how many notes can you name here? We have treble clef notes and we have bass clef notes. We have line notes and space notes. So as you're looking at this slide, you can practice using those acronyms. If it's a line note in the treble clef, then we say, every good boy deserves fudge. That second note, or the second line, is a G. This is a space note. It's the third space, and for spaces in the treble clef, we use the word face. F-A-C-E. There's a line note again. Do you remember what the last one was? Start on every, down here, good boy deserves fudge. Soon you start to recognize notes that you can pick out easily. So maybe you know G now. See if there's any more G's here. Here's a G also. Okay, so have some time, spend some time looking at the slide and practicing naming notes. Take time and remember, use your acronym. That will help you. So remember, the acronym for the lines in the treble clef are every good boy deserves fudge, and the acronym for the spaces in the treble clef is the word face, rhyming with space, F-A-C-E. In the bass clef, the lines are G, B, D, F, A. We say George Brown died Friday afternoon. And then the spaces are all cows eat grass. Another way you can practice is go by clicking on one of the buttons here. They will take you to a website where you can practice. This button, Activity 1, is easy. Naming notes in the treble and the bass clef. This button under Activity 2 is a little harder. If you're familiar with sharps and flats, those are thrown into the mix as well. And you can practice those as well. So I would recommend starting with Activity 1 and see how comfortable you feel with that. And then if you feel comfortable, you can try Activity 2, especially if you have musical experience. So enjoy. And remember to check at the hub and look over your work. This is posted in your hub course, and you can follow instructions there.